most powerful admiral in the Roman world is staring at a cloud. He is 55 years old. He commands 250 warships and 10,000 sailors. He has fought wars from the Rhine to the Middle East. He has written 37 volumes cataloging every natural phenomenon known to science. He cannot explain what he is seeing. The cloud above the mountain does not rise like smoke. It rises like a stone pine, a massive trunk shooting upward from the summit, then spreading into a vast horizontal umbrella miles above the earth. It moves against the wind. It blocks the sun across a 20-mile radius. It is the last thing Pliny the Elder will ever try to study. Because in 79 AD, the Roman Empire is not destroyed by a foreign army. It is not bankrupted by war. It is not betrayed by a rival emperor. It is buried, alive, in 18 hours, on a Tuesday afternoon. And what gets buried is not simply a city. What gets buried is the address book of Roman power, the network of names that ran the empire's wars, the web of alliances that determined who commanded which legion, who funded which fleet, who controlled which trade route across 3 continents. The mountain does not distinguish between a senator and his slave. But Rome does, and when the mountain finishes its work, Rome will spend the next decade trying to calculate who is left to run the world. Pompeii was not a quiet provincial town destroyed by a geological accident. Pompeii was where Rome's 1% gathered every summer, and where an empire's informal operating system ran on marble floors above a magma chamber. This is not the story of a city that was buried. This is the story of a civilization that believed it had purchased its way above the rules of nature, and the 18 hours in which the mountain collected its invoice. Stay, because by the end of this story, the disaster will look completely different than the one you think you know. Pompeii, in 79 AD, is not a provincial town. It is a power corridor. The Bay of Naples stretches 60 miles along the Italian coast, 1 day's sail south of Rome. By the 1st century AD, it has become the most concentrated zone of elite real estate in the Western world. Cicero owns multiple villas here. He retreats to the bay to write his greatest political speeches and philosophical treatises. He calls this coastline the crater of all delights. That phrase is not poetry. It is a financial report. Julius Caesar builds here, Caligula builds here, Claudius and Nero own properties on this shoreline. Augustus purchases the entire island of Capri as his personal retreat. His successor Tiberius builds 12 separate villas on that island and governs the entire Roman Empire from there for the last decade of his reign. The orders that move the world's largest military machine pass through this coastline first. Pompeii sits at the southern anchor of this corridor. It holds approximately 20,000 permanent inhabitants. Dozens of Italian cities are larger. But in terms of wealth concentration per square kilometer, Pompeii rivals the most exclusive neighborhoods of Rome itself. The villas ringing the city are not summer homes. They are operating power centers. The Villa of Poppaea at Oplontis, almost certainly the property of Empress Poppaea Sabina, Nero's second wife, covers an area larger than several city blocks. Its walls carry paintings of impossible technical precision. Its gardens run on engineered hydraulics. Its wine cellars hold stocks distributed across trade networks reaching from North Africa to Gaul. This is not a retreat. This is a statement of political permanence carved in marble above a mountain. The garum factories of the city produce fermented fish sauce, the petroleum of the Roman economy. Every market from Britain to Egypt prices its commodities against garum. The factories of Pompeii hold contracts spanning 3 continents. The port receives ships from Greece, North Africa, and Hispania. The city's amphitheater seats 20,000 people. Its forum gleams with fresh limestone. Its aqueducts, engineered under Augustus, carry cold mountain water to 40 public fountains and hundreds of private residences. In 79 AD, Pompeii is in the middle of a construction boom. New frescoes go up on walls. Greek marble arrives by ship from Athens and Corinth. Architects from Rome compete for commissions. The city is not declining. It is accelerating. This is what exists on the morning of August 24th, 79 AD. Staggering, concentrated, irreplaceable power, gathered, as if by deliberate design, at the base of a mountain that has not erupted in 800 years. The mountain is not sleeping. It is pressurizing. And the first sign that it has been awake for a very long time is already 17 years in the past. A sign that the most powerful men in the empire looked at directly and decided to ignore. In 62 AD, the ground beneath Pompeii breaks. A major earthquake strikes the Bay of Naples region. Columns fall, buildings crack, sections of the forum collapse. The damage is severe enough to require years of reconstruction. Engineers from Rome arrive. Workshops begin cutting replacement columns. Painters start replastering damaged frescoes. And the elite stays. That decision, to rebuild rather than relocate, becomes, in hindsight, the most expensive judgment call in Roman history. Because the 62 AD earthquake is not a random seismic event. It is the first announcement of something waking beneath Vesuvius. In the years that follow, the signs multiply. Wells across the region fluctuate without explanation. Springs that have run for centuries go dry. New springs appear in unexpected locations. Fish die in the shallow coastal waters of the bay without visible cause. The ground smells of sulfur after rain. These are not dramatic warnings. They are quiet ones, the kind that require scientific knowledge no Roman possesses. Roman science has no framework to connect these observations. No one understands what a magma chamber is. No one has mapped a volcanic pressure cycle. Campania shakes. It always shakes. The earth here is active. That is simply the price of living in paradise. In the summer of 79 AD, the tremors accelerate. They become more frequent. They become shallower, a detail that modern volcanologists would flag immediately as a critical danger signal. The tremors cluster specifically around the northern flank of Vesuvius. The mountain is not responding to distant tectonic shifts. It is moving from within. The aqueducts feeding Pompeii's public fountains begin losing pressure in the days before August 24th. The public baths reduce their hours. Roman engineers note the drop in water delivery. They attribute it to summer heat and routine maintenance issues. At Misenum, at the northern tip of the bay, Pliny the Elder reviews his fleet. He is Praefectus Classis, prefect of the Roman imperial naval forces in the Tyrrhenian Sea. He is also simultaneously 37 volumes deep into the Naturalis Historia, the most comprehensive survey of the natural world ever compiled by a Roman mind. He has catalogued astronomy, zoology, botany, metallurgy, and geology. He has an explanation for nearly every phenomenon. He does not have an explanation for what he is about to see. Because on the morning of August 24th, the mountain stops offering warnings and starts delivering consequences. 1 hour past noon, August 24th, 79 AD. Pliny the Younger is 17 years old. He is at his uncle's house at Misenum, reading the Historian Livy. His mother walks into the room. She points east toward the summit of Vesuvius. A column of gas and pulverized rock is erupting from the mountain with explosive force. It does not rise like fire. It rises like a stone pine, a massive trunk shooting vertically from the peak, then spreading laterally into a vast horizontal canopy miles above the Earth. The column climbs 32 kilometers, 20 miles, into the stratosphere. It is visible from every villa on the Bay of Naples. That column is releasing energy equivalent to approximately 100,000 nuclear bombs, the size of the one dropped on Hiroshima. Pliny the Elder steps outside. He looks at the column. He calls for writing tablets. He begins dictating observations. Even now, watching a civilization-ending event begin in real time, he is taking notes. A message arrives from his friend Rectina, stranded near the base of the mountain. She cannot evacuate by land. The pumice is already falling. The roads are blocked. She needs rescue by sea. She is writing to the one man in Italy with the naval resources to reach her. Pliny the Elder does not hesitate. He orders his flagship prepared. He launches a rescue operation into the eruption zone with the Roman imperial fleet. He crosses the Bay of Naples toward the column of fire. He is the most decorated admiral in the empire. He has commanded men in conditions that destroyed lesser mines. The seafloor near Pompeii is already too shallow with pumice. The coast near the mountain is inaccessible. The ships cannot land. He diverts south to Stabiae. He reaches his friend Pomponianus. He takes a bath. He eats dinner. He sleeps. His nephew Pliny later records that his snoring could be heard from the corridor. He tells the people around him, "There is nothing to fear. The mountain will exhaust itself. They will sail in the morning." 10 kilometers to the southeast in Pompeii, the pumice falls like hail for 6 straight hours. Rooftops groan under its weight. Residents tie pillows to their heads against the impact of the falling stones and move toward the city gates. The wealthy fill the roads with carts loaded with silver, jewelry, document boxes, and children. Some buildings have already begun to collapse under the cumulative load. The ones who stay tell themselves what Pliny tells himself, that the mountain will stop. That morning will bring silence. Morning brings something else entirely. Shortly after midnight, the column collapses. For 12 hours, the eruption has sustained a Plinian column, a pillar of gas and pulverized rock held aloft by continuous explosive pressure. Now the pressure fails. The column can no longer support its own weight. It falls back onto the volcanic flanks. And from that collapse, pyroclastic surges are born. A pyroclastic surge is not lava. It is not ash in any conventional sense. It is a superheated avalanche of gas, fire, and pulverized rock, traveling at speeds of up to 180 miles per hour. Its temperature at Herculaneum, 7 kilometers from the summit, reaches between 400 and 900 degrees Celsius. At Pompeii, 10 kilometers further, the first surge arrives at temperatures between 495 and 555 degrees Celsius. At those temperatures, there is no structure that holds, no wall thick enough, no room sealed well enough, no corridor deep enough. The gases of incinerating heat surround entire cities simultaneously. Survival in any structural refuge becomes physically impossible. The first surge hits Herculaneum at approximately 1 a.m. on August 25th. Residents who fled to the boat sheds along the seafront are still there, waiting for rescue ships that cannot reach them through the pumice-choked harbor. The surge hits the sheds. The thermal shock is instantaneous. Death precedes suffocation. The heat is so extreme that internal vapor pressure causes skulls to fracture from within. Soft tissues vaporize on contact. What remains is bone, compressed into the volcanic matrix like flowers pressed into paper. The eruption alternates between Plinian columns and pyroclastic surges 6 separate times across the night and morning of August 24th and 25th. The third and fourth surges bury Pompeii under 4 to 6 meters of volcanic material. The architecture of the city, the forum, the temples, the aqueducts, the amphitheater, the garum factories, disappears under rock and ash. At Stabiae, on the beach, in the grey light before dawn, Pliny the Elder tries to stand. The sixth and largest pyroclastic surge of the entire eruption hits the Stabiae coastline. The wind generated by the surge traps his ship at anchor against the beach. He cannot sail, he cannot breathe, he collapses. The greatest admiral in the Roman Empire, the author of the world's first scientific encyclopedia, dead on a beach, not at sea, not in battle. Overcome by the same mountain he crossed the Bay of Naples to study. His body is found 3 days later, intact, lying where he fell. He is 55 years old. By the time the light returns on August 25th, 79 AD, Pompeii no longer exists above the surface of the earth. And 300 kilometers to the north, in Rome, a 39-year-old emperor who has been in power for exactly 57 days is about to receive a report that will define the remaining 2 years of his reign. Emperor Titus learns what the mountain has done within days of the eruption. He is the son of Vespasian, who rebuilt Roman prestige after the catastrophic year of the 4 emperors in 69 AD. Titus has a reputation for military precision and administrative intelligence. He destroyed Jerusalem in 70 AD. He completed the Colosseum. He is known across the empire as a man of action and justice. He will need every quality he has. Titus immediately allocates funds from the imperial treasury for disaster relief. He appoints 2 curatores restituendae campaniae, former consuls, the most senior administrative officials available outside the Senate, to oversee the reconstruction of Campania. He travels to the disaster zone personally. What he finds exceeds any contingency plan the Roman state possesses. 3 major cities are gone: Pompeii, Herculaneum, Stabiae. Dozens of smaller settlements around the volcano are buried or destroyed. The entire agricultural production zone of Campania, the region that supplies Campanian wine traded from Britain to Egypt, is covered in volcanic ash. The farmlands are unusable for years. The garum distribution networks, operated by Pompeii's factories and connected to markets across 3 continents, have been severed at their source. Titus issues an extraordinary legal decree. The properties of those who died in the eruption with no surviving heirs are to be liquidated, and their proceeds directed toward rebuilding the destroyed cities. The Roman inheritance system, one of the most rigid legal structures in the ancient world, designed to protect the continuity of family wealth across generations, is overridden by imperial emergency decree. The ancient biographer Suetonius records it directly. Bona oppressorum invesevo, quorum heredes non extabant, restitutione afflictarum civitatum attribuit. The assets of those buried in Vesuvius, with no heirs to claim them, were assigned to the restoration of the afflicted cities. But no decree addresses the deeper wound. The Bay of Naples did not lose residents. It lost the informal power infrastructure of the imperial state. The villas around the bay were not merely vacation properties. They were where policy was discussed outside the surveillance of Rome's formal institutions, where alliances formed over dinner, where the men who commanded legions and controlled grain supplies and financed naval operations spent their summers in proximity to each other, building the personal relationships that determined how the empire actually functioned. Those relationships are now in the ash. The particular configuration of influence that existed on August 23rd, 79 AD, that specific network of who trusted whom, who owed what to whom, which admiral was connected to which senator, disappears in 18 hours. That kind of institutional memory cannot be reconstructed by decree. It cannot be purchased from the treasury. It took decades to build. It required proximity. It required the specific alchemy of the Bay of Naples in summer, with the mountains behind and the fleet visible in the harbor, and the wine from Pompeii's cellars moving around a table where the real decisions were made. Titus himself dies in September 81 AD, just 2 years after the eruption, at age 41, from an acute fever. He is deified by the Senate. His brother Domitian succeeds him. Domitian's reign lasts 15 years and becomes one of the most authoritarian in imperial history. Senators live in documented fear. The careful system of consultation between emperor and elite that defined the Flavian political model breaks down progressively under his rule. No historian draws a straight line from Vesuvius to Domitian's paranoia. History is never that clean. But the eruption removes from Rome a generation of men who understood the empire's informal operating system, men who had the relationships to moderate power, who knew which tensions to ease and which alliances to reinforce. Those men are in 4 meters of volcanic ash, 300 kilometers south of the capital. And the Rome that emerges after 79 AD is a slightly different empire, slightly more brittle at precisely the joints that do not appear in any official document. Here is what Pliny the Younger writes to the historian Tacitus, 25 years after the eruption. He describes the morning of August 25th, when the darkness descended toward Misenum, when the pyroclastic cloud moved across the bay towards the coast, when the streets filled with screaming, when some people ran and others simply sat down on the road and stopped trying to escape. He writes, "Many besought the aid of the gods, but still more imagined there were no gods left, and that the universe was plunged into eternal darkness." He is 17 years old when he lives those words. He is in his 40s when he writes them down. He never forgets what a civilization looks like in the moment it realizes it has no contingency plan for this. Pompeii is not a tragedy because a city was buried. Cities are built and buried throughout history. Pompeii is a tragedy because the people who died there believed, with complete sincerity and zero irony, that they had separated themselves from the vulnerabilities that applied to everyone else. They had the aqueducts. They had the marble. They had the fleet admiral stationed at Misenum and the imperial treasury in Rome, and the most sophisticated military and legal apparatus the Western world had ever produced. They had everything except a geology department. The mountain did not destroy Pompeii because Rome was weak. It destroyed Pompeii because Rome was exactly as strong as it had always been, and strong enough had never been the question. The pyroclastic surge does not negotiate with legions. It does not accept treaties. It does not respond to wealth. It arrives at 180 miles per hour and 500 degrees Celsius and completes its work in minutes. And what Titus has to explain to his Senate, what he writes into law, what Suetonius records, is that the most powerful state in Western history had no protocol for the morning after its elite concentrated itself in the wrong place. Cicero called it the crater of all delights, right up until the crater answered. The mountain preserved everything it buried. The bread still in the ovens, the dice on the gaming tables, the coins scattered in the streets, the paintings on the dining room walls, the contracts in the merchant's strongbox, the bodies in exactly the postures of their last conscious moments. In trying to erase the Roman 1%, Vesuvius accidentally created the most complete record of their world that history has ever recovered. We know more about how Roman power lived, what it ate, what it feared, what it displayed on its walls. Because of the eruption, then we would have known if the city had simply survived into a quieter century. The mountain destroyed a civilization's present, and in doing so, gave the future its most precise window into that world. Here is the question worth sitting with long after this video ends. Every era believes its concentration of power is permanent. Every network of influence believes it has found terrain stable enough to build on forever. Every center of wealth calls its particular geography the crater of all delights and rebuilds after the first earthquake. Because the social infrastructure is here, and the market cannot be relocated, and the view is too good to abandon. What are the magma chambers running beneath the structures we have decided, for the sake of convenience, not to think about? Rome had the answer under its feet for 17 years. It called it the price of living in paradise. On August 24th, 79 AD, paradise collected the bill. If this story deserves a wider audience, share it. The Romans didn't get a warning. You just did.